Hi there. In this lesson, we're going to look at adding and subtracting mixed numbers, but importantly, mixed numbers with fractions with different denominators. So I've got 4 examples to look at here, but let's start with the first one. Now, the way I'm going to do this is split it into 2 parts. So I've got the numbers I'm going to add together, and then I'm going to add together the fractions as well. Now, to some extent, I'm going to imagine that you can already add fractions with different denominators. If you're not so good at that, then maybe watch the prior lesson. Okay, so we'll add the 4 and 3 together, that's the easy part, and we'll get 7. Now to do the fractions part, what I normally do is open up a wee bracket, and I put my answers inside the bracket to the fractions part. So I'm just going to do that as the same as the last lesson. I'm going to look for a common denominator, the smallest number 4 and 5 both divide into, and then I'm going to make sure I adjust the top numbers as well. So 5 and 4 both divide into 20, so 20 is the numbers I'm going to look for. And I'll put it all in, I'll talk it through. So I've got 20 in the bottom for both of them. Now, why have I got the 15 and the 4 in the top? Well, if I think about the 4 there, I need to multiply it by 5 to get 20. So you've got to do the same to the top. You've got to times that by 5. And the same with the 5 over here. I need to times that by 4 to get to the 20. So times the top by 4 to get that one. And that's basically the idea behind that. But again, I go over it in more detail in the last lesson. Now that you've got that, you can pretty much go straight into the answer. So I know it's 7 and something. So I've got 7 and I add these 2 parts and I get 19 over 20 and I'm done. Right, let's move on to the next one. It's exactly the same idea. So add the 3 and the 2 together, and then in a wee bracket, you're going to add the fractions. Again, you're going to look for a common denominator. Right, so 3 and 2 make 5. Open up your bracket, like that. And the common denominator, you're thinking, what's the smallest number 3 and 7 go into? And that will be 21. Again, I'll uncover it all and talk you through how I got the top numbers. So you multiply the 3 by 7 to get 21, but you need to times the top by 7 to create an equivalent fraction. Times the bottom number by 3 to get to there, and you've got to do the same to the top number. Let's multiply by 3 as well. And then once you're done there, basically it's a case of just adding the bit inside. So we've got 5 and 14 add 6 is 20 over 21. Okay, to finish off, I'm going to look at a kind of harder one here and then a takeaway, which is very similar. So let's start the same way. We'll do the whole numbers and then we'll do the fractions in a bracket. Okay, so if you add the whole numbers together, you're going to get 3. And then the common denominator in the bracket is going to be 15, isn't it? Again, how do I get the top number? Well, I times that one by 5, do the same to the top, times that by 5 to get 10. I times this one by 3, do the same to the top. Now what you'll notice here, when you add this part, you get 19 over 15, which is a top-heavy fraction. Now again, there's a lesson earlier on how to change top-heavy fractions into mixed numbers. But basically, you're seeing how many 15s go into 19 with what remainder. And that's 1 remainder 4. So we've basically got 3 plus 1 remainder 4 15ths. Now, I don't mind if you don't need to put this line in and you go directly to that because it's 4 and 4 15ths. So you can skip that line, but that's the idea. Change that into a mixed number and then add it all up. Collect your whole numbers together. Now let's see what a takeaway and how a takeaway works. So again, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to focus on the 9 and the 3, and we're also going to focus on the fractions part. We're going to kind of do them separately. So 9 take away 3, that's 6. And then to take away the fractions part, again, I need a common denominator. Now, I've got 2 different ways of doing this. The lowest common multiple of 5 and 10, or the lowest number they both divide into, is actually 10. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So 3 over 10 doesn't change because it's already got a 10 there, but the 5 you're going to have to double up to get to 10. So the 5, double it, times it by 2, but make sure you do the same to the top, times it by 2. And then we can pretty much do this. 8 over 10 take away 3 over 10, so that's 6 and 5 tenths. Watch that, it simplifies because 5 over 10 is the same as a half. They both divide by 5 and you go into a half. Now, some of you at this point might have said, well, I might have used 50. it still works if you don't get the lowest common multiple of 5 and 10. I'll show you how that. Sometimes it just makes things a bit harder and makes you have to simplify. In this particular case, it doesn't change it too bad, but sometimes the numbers get really big when you do this kind of technique all the time, of always multiplying these numbers, but it still does work, and watch what happens. If you chose that, you would get 6 and you'd get 40 over 50. You would times that by 10 and you would times the top by 10, and you would get 15 over 50. You would times that by 5 and times the top by 5. Now you would take them away. You would get 6 and 25 over 50, and make sure you simplify this down to 6.5. It still works. It sometimes just makes things a wee bit harder.